What is good, YouTube, man? I'm back today with another video for you guys, man. You know, y'all have just been supporting these last videos like crazy. My last two videos have over 1,500 views a piece. Like, that's insane to have over 3,000 views with just two videos. I can't stress it enough, man. Y'all support is just really crazy to me. We're literally six or seven subs away from 700 subscribers, man. I've only been doing this for maybe a month at the max, consistently. Like, I cannot appreciate y'all support like more than y'all have been supporting me. So, yeah, man, I just can't appreciate that even more than what y'all are doing. But today, we're on the topic of the Raiders cornerback situation, right? I think we all thought that we were going to be a bit more active with free agency in terms of just secondary period. But we're going to stick on the topic of corners. But really quick, I want to give another shout out to Icy Nate for the thumbnail of today's video. Go check him out. His Instagram page is going to be in the description as always. But let's get into the video, man. So, as we all know, on the roster, we have second round pick Trayvon Mullen, first round pick Damon Arnett, fourth round pick Isaiah Johnson, who really intrigues me, fifth round pick Amik Robertson. We also have Nevin Lawson. So shout out to him, man. Shout out to Nevin Lawson for getting suspended for the first 2 games. At least we know that liability 100% will not be out on the field for the first 2 games, right? That's a blessing in disguise that he's out. Yeah, shout out to Nevin Lawson for getting suspended for the first 2 games because I do not want him to see the field. I know that some people might say that, oh, he might be able to play the slot. No. I get it. Paul Guenther was bad, but that man was just worse. There was something wrong with Nevin Lawson, right? But let me get into it, right? So, second round pick Trayvon Mullen in his first 2 years, he has had the most success out of all of our corners, right? Damon Arnett was hurt most of last year. Isaiah Johnson missed his whole rookie year with I think it was a face or a forehead fracture. He got that fracture. It was either in preseason or in training camp. I believe he got hit in the head with the knee when he was trying to either tackle somebody or he was falling down and he got hit in the head with a knee and he fractured part of his forehead. And Amik Robertson, he just, he was just not in the role as much last year. Isaiah Johnson didn't get a lot of play last year for some reason. And like we said, Trayvon Mullen, he has been our number one as of the whole year, basically. I believe he missed like maybe 1 or 2 games last year. And listen, man, what I want to talk about a lot is we were drafting a lot of press man corners, and in Paul Guenther's system, for some reason, we would always say, okay, looks like Paul Guenther now has his press man corners to run his system, but would always run off man coverage. And that would confuse us a lot. It was a really horrible scheme. We all know that, but I want to get into the specifics, right? Gus Bradley comes in week 1 and reports are rumoring that Isaiah Johnson is getting a lot of attention and a lot of love from the new staff, from the new defensive staff, the staff that I talked about last year from Ron Millis, Richard Smith, and defensive coordinator Gus Bradley, right? So let's talk about it, right? Would y'all want Isaiah Johnson to really get that shot that he deserves? Because let's be honest, I talked about this before. The year that Trayvon Mullen got drafted in the second round, Mike Mayock said to Isaiah Johnson, when we got Isaiah Johnson in the 4th round, because remember, we didn't have a 3rd round pick, I think, that year. But look, that's besides the point. That year that we got Isaiah Johnson and Trayvon Mullen, Mike Mayock is on the phone and says, listen, I'm surprised you're still here. We were honestly really considering you at pick, I don't remember where Trayvon Mullen was. I forget. But he was like, we were honestly considering picking you up in the 2nd round where we got Trayvon Mullen. Now, when you get somebody in the 4th, right? And on your draft board, you have him as a 2nd round prospect. Much like last year, we all thought that Amik Robertson was going to go mid-3rd, late 4th, the latest. But he ended up falling to the 5th round, and we ended up getting Amik Robertson, right? So, what intrigues me a lot about Isaiah Johnson and Damon Arnett is that could we see Isaiah Johnson as our cornerback 2, as he is very lengthy, and that is exactly what Gus Bradley likes in his defensive backs. Same as Ron Millis, whatever you want to say, right? Maybe we put first round corner Damon Arnette into the slot, right? He played slot for a year and a half in his collegiate career with the Ohio State Buckeyes. He was a slot corner his whole freshman year and half of his sophomore season. Then he was converted to an outside corner, then where he was on opposite sides of Jeff Okudah, and we all know that that was a great tandem together. But in the NFL, right? So look, the reason in the NFL where you have a slot corner, yes, your slot corner needs to be very twitchy, very quick, and very fast. Thankfully, Damon Arnette is that. His problem is not coverage. His problem is getting his body right to a way where he'll be able to play week in and week out, right? Last year we were seeing clips of him stride for stride with Henry Ruggs on a go route. His problem isn't speed, it's not athleticism, it's not technique, right? It was his weight and it was his tackling form. Which is why I think that we could play him inside the slot, because inside the slot, your slot corner makes a ton of tackles. Your slot corner is huge in run fits. He is huge in run situations, right? Your corner is filling up an alley, in gaps inside of the run game. So I could see us maybe pushing Damon Arnette into the slot. And I believe that could work handsomely well, because he has all the techniques. He has everything that he just now needs to put it together, which I think he will do, because you have a great staff around Damon Arnette now. And I think that now you just let Trayvon Mullen be Trayvon Mullen. You let him be the player that he was at Clemson, where you let him one-on-one in his own little island, and he doesn't have to worry about too much. In the system, it's pretty simple. You go deep. If you're the outside corner, if your receiver goes deep, you run with them. If they don't go deep, then you stay intermediately, right? You stay in a mid zone, basically. So let's talk about it, right? So Isaiah Johnson, I think that Isaiah Johnson could get a lot of cornerback 2 snaps this year, but like we all said before, we could still be trying to bring in a Richard Sherman. We could still be trying to bring in a Brian Poole. We could be looking into getting an Asante Samuel in the draft, a Trill Williams out of Syracuse in the draft, maybe even a Shaun Wade in the draft, right? I know a lot of people didn't like it when I mocked Shaun Wade to the Raiders, but honestly, Shaun Wade is a true slot corner, right? Maybe you want to just keep Damon Arnette on the outside. Maybe you could bring in a Shaun Wade in the draft to play that slot completely, right? Maybe you have that lockdown slot if you bring in Shaun Wade, right? Or you bring in a Brian Poole off the free agency market, because he is still out on the market for $5 to $8 million a year, and you have your proven slot corner. Or you bring in your veteran Richard Sherman, and he'll actually play outside corner alongside of Trayvon Mullen, and either that takes away snaps from Isaiah Johnson, or that takes away snaps from Damon Arnette. Damon Arnette in that case could be moved inside to the slot if Richard Sherman were to be picked up by the Las Vegas Raiders, or you could just get a Richard Sherman, and maybe you really try out a Meek Robertson in the slot. Maybe that's the plan, right? And if you do get a Richard Sherman, that it'll just take away snaps from Isaiah Johnson and Damon Arnette. So would I want a Richard Sherman? 100%. Because you have Richard Sherman, you not only have a good player. Yes, he isn't the best physically, but in this scheme, you don't need to be the best physically. I explained this before. In the Legion of Boom, their outside corners were not the fastest. They weren't the most athletically gifted, right? They were really smart and they were really physical. And in the scheme, guess what? You have Damon Arnette, who is really physical. He put his body on the line for tackles a lot last year. And you have other guys on this roster. I don't think that Trayvon Mullen is the most physical corner, but I do think that he has a lot of the assets for him to be just a great corner in this system, right? You have Isaiah Johnson, a very, very, very lengthy, pressy. He's a very good corner, man. I really like Isaiah Johnson a ton. I made a video, I think it was one of my 3rd ever videos on this channel just on Isaiah Johnson, and I was actually comparing him to Richard Sherman. Let me just tell you a bit of him, right? I mean, I'm sure you've heard it. Isaiah Johnson is only half an inch shorter. He runs a 4.40 40-yard dash. Wingspan is longer. He's heavier, but he's faster. I like Isaiah Johnson a lot. If what we're seeing right now is Gus Bradley saying, you know what? We're not going to get anybody in free agency. We're just going to shore up our cornerback needs in the 3rd or 4th round of the draft, I would be fine with it. But I still think that you need to add someone like a Richard Sherman, maybe a Casey Hayward, maybe a Brian Poole. There's a lot of good options on the market still, and I think that we should still be looking into draft one. I don't know why the rookie pool is only $3.75 million for us this year. I thought that it was going to be somewhere towards $7 million that we would need to put aside, but we're currently at $11.75 million in cap space. So we could bring in a corner. We could bring in a safety. Let me actually know in the comments below, what would you guys rather bring in at the moment, a corner or a safety? Let's just say that we can't bring in both. Let's say we can only bring in one corner or one safety. What would you guys want to bring in, right? I'd say, in my personal opinion, I would rather bring in one corner. One corner. I would say bring in a Richard Sherman or bring in a Brian Poole. Bring in maybe a Casey Hayward who has the ability to play both free safety and corner. You know, I say you bring in a corner because I do think that there's really two ways that you can go in this draft, right? You can either go free safety in the first or free safety in the second. My only scare now is that I don't think that Richie Grant is going to be at our pick in the second round. I think that Richie Grant just had one of the best pro days you can have at free safety, and I think that teams saw that. A lot of teams reportedly around the league were very highly impressed by Richie Grant's pro day, and I understand it was just a pro day, but guess what? Ron Millis, our defensive back coach, was the one running Richie Grant's pro days workouts. Who knows, right? Who knows? I would just love for us to really solidify this cornerback position. Honestly, I could really see Gus Bradley just being completely fine with what we have, and I could see Gus Bradley just really improving and molding these guys that we have into good players, because let's be honest, Amik Robertson came in with a lot of potential. Isaiah Johnson was projected on some people's draft boards as a second round pick. We got him in the fourth, right? Trayvon Mullen was arguably one of the best corners in that draft class, and we got him. I think that we have all the pieces that we need at corner. I do think that we need to have some more depth. I would love to bring in a Richard Sherman. I would even love to bring in a Brian Poole, right? But all at the right money. Maybe you still want to bring in a free safety to not put so much pressure on a free safety that you draft, right? Maybe you get a Trey Boston so that there isn't so much pressure on the free safety position that you bring in, right? But let me know what you guys think, man. Let me answer that question that I asked you guys. If you could only bring in one, what would it be? If you could bring in one corner or one safety, what would you guys rather do? Bring in one corner or one safety before the draft? The draft is this month, y'all. It starts the 29th. That's the official day of the NFL draft. That's the day that we'll all know. Hey, did Gus Bradley get the 17th overall pick, or did Tom Cable get the 17th overall pick, right? We'll see on the 29th of April. It goes all the way until the 2nd of May. So, hey, we have some options, right? We have some different ways that we can go. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below, man. Like, comment, and subscribe if you can. And I'm out, Raider Nation. Peace.